So the question today is kind of stem out of our conversations we've actually been having over Blair Warren's quote from his book. And the full quote again is people will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, help them throw rocks at their enemies. And so we've already thrown some rocks and we played the Columbo um route last week. Okay. And they're gonna, make sure you subscribe on the YouTube channel because I've got both those videos posted. If you're well, where's that at? Right. We'll just find it out there. But today I'd like to unpack, if it's okay with you guys, that allay their fears. Okay. And um it's interesting on projects when we're working with stuff. Um, Sometimes it's the most basic stuff, but sometimes it's a bit deeper. It's behind the thing. And like some people always want to, when I go in and work with organizations, oftentimes they says, "Can you just script it out for us? Can you just tell us what to say?" Right? Anybody else just want to know what to say? What's the magic words, right? And we're always looking for that. We always look at for it, like in the sales process and the marketing process. Just give me the copy, I can fill in the blanks. Okay. You got to sleuth around a bit and find it on the back side because sometimes it's something else. Okay. And so today I want to kind of explore that something else that might be getting in the way. Would that help you guys out? And let me kind of lay this down a bit. Um, when you're talking with somebody, okay, whether that's an enrollment call or whatever, right? Or you've got a product. Let's say we got a product, right? Um, this product X, Y, and Z, right? And you got the guy there pitching it, right? Whether it's the chamois at the state fair or you know, the fancy barbecue grill when you walk through Costco, right? It there's a sometimes there's an underlying fear that you're not tapping with your product display, right? In other words, you've got your package. Hey, in 6 weeks, I'm going to get you off sugar. You're never going to look at a maple bar the same again, right? Um, all of this stuff. I mean, you're going to think celery is like God's given answer to everything, right? And you got this nailed. You've got the research, you've got the case studies, you've got the examples, and everything. And then they still don't engage with you, right? So Terry, when you go out there and do that, because like, and I loved your email you sent out to me this week too. It's like I'm like I want to jump in, but then I thought like, oh, if I jump in, I'm going to tell you what I felt. Okay, to feel this right, I might have to give up that maple bar, and I don't want to do that. See, so sometimes in the marketplace, there's a fear of success. In other words, if I worked with you, Terry, I might successfully give up sugar. And that has a whole other ripple effect of implications in my life. And I ain't ready for. No matter how good you are, no matter how much you try to convince me, it's there. If I lose 10 pounds, I might be more attractive. And I'm not really ready to be attractive, as silly as that sounds. If I let Donald help me with my sales and marketing, I might actually get a bunch of clients. And then what do I do? So, what is the fear of? When you allay their fears, you see, some things they have a fear of success. The default in life is to do what they've always done, right? And like, people they have a group that they hang with. And you know what happens if they become too successful? They don't fit into their current group. And they're worried. You see, people, oh, I want to make more money, right? Oh, I want to make 10,000 a month or 20,000 or 30,000. But they don't. Okay. right? And you got a clear path. I mean, it's like a note. I mean, come on, look at this right here. I laid this out for somebody last week. I mean, step by step by step. And you know what they did today to me? They said, I don't think I'm ready for that. I'm thinking, you're not ready to make all this money that's right in front of you, right? What did I miss?
I think one of the key things is really people's identity, where who they view themselves as now, and any kind of change that we make with coaching changes that. And so unless somebody already has or is willing to have a different vision of themselves, we always go back to what we think we are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Morris, you had your hand up so politely. It's like, God, you
Yeah,
think this was
I
a
was
you would think this was a formal classroom or something.
no, just with the delay. I'm a bit further away from you guys, so with the delay, I don't want to cut anyone off. But you know, you're so right about people not being ready to get the results that they want. And my question is, isn't that in a way the purpose of marketing, filtering out the people who aren't a good fit, who aren't ready? Or is that something we should worry about? Is it something we should try to fix in our marketing message, speaking to the people who are afraid of success?
Hmm.
Or should we just filter them out?
Let's say that, and let's maybe broaden it out. Okay. They're afraid of change, right? Um, think about the spouse that's being abused, right? And you think, oh, if we get them out of that situation, that's like a no-brainer, right? And you go through all of this work to help them out, find them different living arrangements, and you step aside, and a month later they're back living with the abusive spouse. It happens over and over and over and over again. What is their fear? Right? They're so used to that pattern, right? They don't really know how to function in life outside of that pattern.
There is a universal to all this.
Mm-hmm.
In all this massive stuff I read, there's one thing that keeps showing up, which is it's not some people have a great fear of discomfort. Other people seek discomfort.
Mm.
People who seek discomfort are very open to experiencing new things that is different for them. Their creativity involves discomfort. Doing new things involves discomfort. Getting away, it's comfortable to go back to that abusive spouse. You're used to it. Starting something new is scary and uncomfortable. The universal to all this is we like to be comfortable, but everything that you need to do to get to the other side of growth, success, creativity involves embracing discomfort and going there.
Hmm.
I would be careful when talking about abused women because I used to be one that was I was working with the women's group when I would go in to get the woman out or get her stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like the bouncer type things. And there's a lot of things about the person that blames herself. She doesn't blame the husband, she blames herself. And then she's gonna change, right? She loves him and he's the father of her kids. And it's like, and that's why I would be involved because I would walk in and make sure the husband stayed back because I knew she would go back. So it was not my place to beat the crap out of him, judge him or anything. And yeah, so it's complicated. So please don't talk about this outside this room because you're gonna piss a lot of people off.
Yeah.
A lot of details in this environment. And I understand what you're saying. I agree 100% what you're saying, but
Yeah.
in this environment, I used to be involved in there and I learned a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just a one thing.
It's an eye opener. And I mean, I think that's Jean-Luc, thank you for that. And I mean, this is why it's so crucial. Like when you're talking with somebody, um, it's things that you don't see, right? And it's things off to the side. Let me give you some fill in the, would have to give you some guys some fill in the blank process for this that I've used. So I told you at the beginning of the call, there's no fill in the blank, or there's no magic words. How about I give you the magic words? Okay. Is that a good quote, Tom? There's no magic words, but how about I give you the magic words or the fill in the blank? When you're engaging with somebody, the first thing you need to ask them is, do you want help? Or determine, do they want help? Right? No matter how good giving up sugar is, right? Do you want the results of giving up sugar? I mean, do you really want that? And so you want to kind of like start there from a ground zero, right? No matter how good what you have, maybe you've got the best juicer in the world, but do they want the best juicer? Maybe they don't. Right? So don't make the assumption. So do you want help? That makes sense? And you want to clear that path really solidly before you go to the next step. Now, assuming you're in conversation and that's otherwise you've helped them kind of uncover this, is, would you accept somebody helping you with that? See, that's another big factor, right? Yeah, they want help, but are they ready to accept someone? See what we're doing? It's anyone helping them with that. Yeah, they want
I
help.
love the distinction you just made, Donald, by asking someone, do you want help? Or asking, is this something you would be willing to accept help with?
Mhm.
Two different ways of looking at it and two
Mhm.
different reactions.
Yeah.
Because when you say, do you need help? Oh, no, I can do this myself. But
Mhm.
is this something you'd be willing to accept help with?
Well,
Well-
and actually even more subtle than that. And yeah, you're absolutely right. Would you be willing to accept someone's help? So you see, like, do you need help? Yeah, I need help. So I'm going to go watch a bunch of YouTube videos and figure it out myself. Or I'm going to take a course and figure it out on my own. See, that's a whole different kind of help than, yeah, I'm actually willing to engage with somebody to help me with that. I'm willing to make myself vulnerable to another human being. See the subtlety of that? And this is where oftentimes we miss it as well. Because we get with somebody, yeah, I want help. But they don't want another human being to help them. They really want to read a book. They would really rather hide in a corner and fuddle with the instruction manual to figure it out, right? And so we miss a key moment there. Okay? So they need help. They've acknowledged that. They've also been, you're fairly comfortable that they have said, yeah, I would accept someone's help, right? Okay, so the next step here is, do you think I could help you with that? Now, you've been talking with them, maybe they've been exposed to your Facebook posts or your social media engagement on LinkedIn. It doesn't make any difference. They've checked you out. Do you think I could help you with this? Well, so far you've been really good to talk to, and I kind of checked you out. You look like you got what it takes. Yeah, I think you could help me with this. Now, you see, I didn't say I'm going to help you, or would you? Do you think I could help you? Right? So we flowed with that, and so partly we're unpacking this question of allaying their fears, right? Do you see how this is kind of getting ahead of that kind of stuff? Just in that process. And then just the next logical thing is win. And so the problem here is, you have established this day and this date when you're going to start your challenge to give up sugar, but it's not the right timing for them. And so you miss it. And so I'm all for setting those dates, Terry, and having that. I think that brilliant. Does that make sense? And you should do that. There's nothing wrong with what you did. But what I'm saying is, it's also you could be missing a significant portion of your market just on the fact that the wrong time. It's like maybe a week later, or maybe next month, or maybe in the summertime, right? So be conscious of that, because you've got everything and you've got some people lined up, but there's some more people. It's like when, right? Eric is on palindrome mode right now, and that comes around every year, right? And that seems to be the right time for him to do that. But maybe for some other people to engage with him, it's not the right time. So when? And there again, this is hard because you got to be patient, right? And Tracy, I mean, that's where my patience is paid off this last week, right? I was really patient, when, right? And the win was now for that project, right? But if I had pushed it when I first became aware of it, I would have hit a brick wall. I had to be patient for win on their side, right? Win. And there's a number of factors there that made it now for them. No, I would have liked it 2 years ago. I really would have liked it 2 years ago, or 6 months ago, or even last month. But I'm willing to wait for when they want it. Does that make sense? That help you guys out to you see the process? And so sometimes we're coming in to the marketplace and we think, oh, I've got the wrong message. No, you don't have the wrong message. You've got the right message. Comments, questions?
I think too, by addressing this issue at the start, most likely for any kind of coaching that's happening, as change is happening, they're likely to hit a place or 2 or 12 where the change is feeling uncomfortable. And that going back to this, like, okay, going back to this process and going back to that and pointing out, okay, this is kind of running the same things that we started out with, either pointing it out point blank or just working from that place yourself. It doesn't just help at the beginning, but it can help all through the process of change.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tracy, I think where we miss it sometimes in business is we make the sale and you have to continue selling. Some people like, oh, I know I'm working on a project right now. I'm helping somebody do their sales, right? But that's a danger. If I sell them so well, and then they come in and start working with them and they stop selling them, you really, as a business person, it's imperative for you to continue selling. When I was a full-time piano teacher, I was not the best piano teacher. However, I had a full studio and I had people that drove a long distance to study with me because I continually sold them. I sold them to come again. I sold them to practice. I sold them on the piece they were working on over and over and over again.
But what do you mean by selling? You mean asking permission each time, that kind of thing? Or are you really painting a picture of the benefits, or what exactly do you mean by selling over and over?
People will move based on motivations. Okay, so people are going to buy based on the motivation. They want whatever it is they think you're offering. Okay, you have to continually keep that out in front of them. You have to keep reminding them of that. And sometimes you have to continually tweak and adjust and modify what that is as you work with them. It's going to change. Richard, I mean, even think back into an architectural project, they come to you and they want to build it, right? And you're halfway through the project and they said, actually, we want a building with 3 more bathrooms in it than we thought at the beginning, right? The circumstances change and timelines change and you have to readjust and reevaluate. So there's a continual selling process most of the time that needs to take place. Where I've seen people fail on this is that they bring somebody in with a product or a service and they make the assumption that they've done all the work already, right? You've got to continually remind the marketplace of what it is and where they're going. Think about Coca-Cola. Let's back using one of the biggies as an example, right? They dominate the marketplace. But you realize they still spend a significant portion of their money reselling current and ongoing Coke drinkers. Let me say that again. They spend a significant amount of effort and money reselling their current Coca-Cola drinkers. They are not spending a bunch of money to convert a bunch of new people to Coca-Cola. Most of their marketing budget is spent reselling and continuing to sell current Coca-Cola drinkers.
So it seems like just like at the beginning, when you're talking, you sell results, and you've said it's like people they may think they're making logical decisions, but they make emotional decisions, and you're selling results, and that doesn't ever have to change. I remember when I first heard Annie talk about how when she does her coaching sessions that she'll charge for, that session, and they're like, okay, well, if this was worth it to you, do you want to go again? Do you want to go again? And so that's a very continuing to sell. What's the result that you got? And in the case of Coke, it's like, well, if you want to keep that happy, exciting life that you've had by drinking Coke, then you need to keep drinking Coke, or your life is not going to be as happy and as exciting. So it's the selling of the results over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah. It's that emotional. Once you find the emotion, you have to keep going with it, right? And they're again allaying their fears, right? What is people's biggest fear? They're going to stop getting whatever high they were on. The people that get a high out of buying stuff, right? And they buy it and they stack it up. I got a friend that buys stuff and just stacks it up. And right, it's like she never uses the stuff. It's just like it's the buying process. And I just think to myself, where's the disconnect there, right? Because she's stuck in one part of the loop. It's ultimately what it is. Does that make sense? It's like there's a dysfunction there, and sometimes we can all get on that dysfunction. So it's just recognizing that. What are we afraid of? So Tracy, probably the biggest thing, from a business person standpoint, is to face your own fears as well, straight up front. If you can face your own fear and be honest with that, and it's not easy. I struggle with it myself. That gives you more of a sensitivity to now see it within your current clients, your current prospects, potential prospects in the marketplace.
Hey, Donald, can I spiral back to for a second to where you said you were not the best piano teacher, but you had a full studio, etc. I would say that you were the right piano teacher for a whole bunch of people.
Yep.
And an analogy, since there's so many musicians in our group, back in the day, Ringo Starr, the drummer of the Beatles, was considered to not be a particularly great drummer. In fact, many would say he wasn't the best drummer. Yet he was the perfect drummer for the Beatles and the best drummer for the Beatles. Today, Ringo is looked at actually as being an amazing, there's books being written about his drumming. There were faster and more flashy drummers back then, but Ringo was the right. So if you just think about that as, I might not be the best coach in the world, but I might be just the right coach for the people who,
Ah,
and each of us, right? I mean, that's a way, if we can convey that,
mhm,
not using those words because it makes us sound
yeah,
way. Um,
yeah. So, and Eric's, I mean, so that's exactly it, right? And, part of allaying somebody's fears, it's a level of, comfort, right? It's, and that's going to happen because you've got a level of connection. I was just giving Richard a bad time here at the beginning. He's got this I mean, there's all these things about Richard that we don't know about, but he's got a model car collection that won't quit, right? And it behooves him to share that because that could be the
It makes me
avenue.
feel like a nerd, but you're probably right, Donald.
No, I'm Donald's always right. Come on, Richard. By sharing that, right? By sharing that, you could help allay someone's fears. Someone could be intimidated by all those books on your shelf. I know you find that shocking, but
No,
there,
you're right.
there are those of us that because of the depth of your knowledge and reading, you're a bit intimidating. And if you soften that up just a little bit with a little bit more of your jazz riffs over the top of background tracks and a little bit more of exposing this obsession with cars and the models of them will go a long ways towards connecting with the marketplace. It's not what you're selling.
I find it fascinating that you think cars would make you seem like a nerd, but books wouldn't.
That's funny. Oh God, that's good, Elaine. That made me laugh. Oh. Well, that
I
they
mean,
talk
so many people
about
will connect with cars that won't connect with books.
well, they
Yeah.
talk about vulnerability all the time, being vulnerable. That's a scary. Maybe it's just me. That's kind of a scary thing to do. I guess. Yeah, I don't know. But you talk about fear and discomfort, and you're talking about in general techniques, ways, things to make people feel comfortable with you and put down whatever defenses they may have and allay those fears of engaging with you.
Well, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of levels to it. It's not just a one-dimensional thing. It's like, you know, fifth and seventh dimension type of stuff. Like Tony, did you ever walk a beat, Tony, in your early days?
I actually that wasn't one of the things I did. So,
Okay.
but I know a lot of guys that did.
Yeah, and imagine I remember when I was a kid on South Tacoma Way, there was a gentleman, police officer that walked that beat. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head now, but a big Irish guy. Right back then, all the cops were Irish. But he knew that street. There's like 3 blocks that he walked, both sides, and it was the business district, right? And he just had a sense about it. He didn't have to know. I mean, he would tap on the door of a business and get the top of the hat from the jeweler, or the, you know what I mean? And he knew if something was awry or not, just a sense of it. Makes sense? Or if there was a piece of paper out of place on the street, you just watch this guy. He could smell it. He could smell it in the air, right? You know what I'm talking about? And so part of when you're talking with somebody is to kind of get that level of intuition or guess at it or try to probe around it till you kind of find it, right? Before you go to the next step. Like when you talk with somebody, so say you're helping somebody lose weight, okay? You gotta tear that thing apart 10 ways to Sunday before you ever lay out your protocol or even invite them in. The longer you spend there, the more of the universe is going to open up for you. That makes sense? because you're going to find barriers that you didn't even know existed, or that you can preempt, or you know, set aside. You know, it's subtle little things. And when we work with people with their LinkedIn profiles, you know, just the profile picture or the banner at the top, just changing those out, changing the way you smile, right? Making sure that your smile is warm on your profile pic. You know, it's professional enough, but not so professional that you look untouchable, right? There's a subtle balance, and when you can catch that, right? And when the smile is genuine, and when it's kind of like canned, or when you look like, oh my gosh, right? I tapped in conversation with a gentleman I know in Ohio. He's a CPA. And I've had a number of conversations with Dana and helped him out for a while. And he said, well, his comment to me when I first met him, he says, I don't smile. And it was just like, I don't smile. I says, well, Dana, I need you to smile. You give me, you know, whatever. I got him to like do a halfway grin. I mean, but he struggled at that. But that halfway grin was authentic. If he'd given up a Cheshire cat grin, it would not have worked for him. He just was not the kind of guy that could grin, could smile. And does that make sense? And I talked to him last week, just touched down with him, and he just picked up like 30 new clients, right? Because I helped him get down to who he really was, who he was, not trying to be somebody else, right? He's a typical CPA, right? And it's just like, it's just right. It was right there for him, but he was struggling to be, well, a lot of things. But does that make sense? It's like, what are the barriers, you know? And you got to allay people's fears. They might fear you.
And
I'm afraid of Terry because she's going to make me give up maple bars. I mean, if I get too deep with Terry, she's going to make way too much sense to me. And pretty soon I'm not going to be eating maple bars. That makes sense?
I have a thought about this fear. It's the same as what I started with, but I want to introduce it in a different way. I can imagine talking to a client, asking him what they're afraid of, and not getting a very good answer. It's
Mhm.
kind of fear is kind of an abstract thing, and maybe you don't want to tell people. And I haven't used this yet, but I can imagine asking people, what are you uncomfortable with? And getting a good answer, because that's very visceral. You know what you're uncomfortable with. The fear thing is a little abstract. I'm not sure why I'm afraid. Why am I afraid of that? I'm not sure. Why am I uncomfortable? I know exactly what I'm uncomfortable with. I know I'm beating a dead horse a little bit, maybe, but
Or
I,
you can look
I
at, you know, or you can take it from the other end too, because I absolutely agree with you on that point there, Richard. But you can also say, okay, let's take a look at what success looks like. So let's say we get 3 really good clients for you, or let's say you lose 10 pounds. Let's say, you know, if we can really line it out so you're really, really comfortable of talking your doctor out of you know, a C-section or whatever, right? No matter what, right? That you're armed with that. Let's sit with that. What does that look like? How does that feel? Like, you know, are you comfortable with that? Is that something that really plays out? So let's play out that scenario. Say we add 10 new clients to your weekly schedule. Can you handle 10 new clients on your weekly schedule? Where would you put them in? What day and what time would you actually engage with those clients? As silly as that sounds, I mean, I had this conversation with somebody a couple, 3 weeks ago. You know, and finally we says, okay, let's go to your calendar. And I went to their calendar, and before we discussed getting 10 clients, we found places on their calendar for those clients to be. And it was amazing once we did that. In other words, we think about this. Have you guys done this exercise? Go to I want new clients. Do you have a place on your calendar for those new clients? Have you made a space? Do you see where the fear comes in? Why am I not getting clients? Well, have you made space on your calendar for them? You might not be realizing it, but you might be sabotaging your own efforts to get new clients because you haven't made space for those new clients. That hit a nerve with anybody?
Well, more than hitting a nerve. I mean, it basically, I don't know, cut the nerve, severed it. I don't know where I am gonna make that decision to change, but it's
Mhm.
definitely, to open up that time. Like,
Mhm.
where is it gonna come from? I just, I don't know.
Mhm. So, Elaine, the big factor here is don't assume that people are ready for success. Don't assume people are ready for success.
Including me.
I bought a pellet smoker here a few years ago, but before that I had a gas grill, before that a charcoal grill, right? And it's kind of funny because I'd always go, the guy that was selling the units there, I taught him a lot about how to sell because I said you're selling the wrong thing, right? If you really want me to buy that pellet smoker, right, you have to sell me on giving up my miscooked steaks. Right? You have to get me over the fact that I've gotten comfortable with my chicken catching on fire on the grill. I mean, it's just so normal. I mean, if I didn't have that, I mean, what am I going to do with myself? Right? Yeah, I mean, if you tell me I can put the chicken on the grill and then smoke it at a low heat for several hours and it comes up perfect every time, I don't know if I'm ready for that. As silly as that sounds, Elaine, I mean, that was the right. And I've always done it this way. Come on, I've always burned my chicken. I've always had a spray bottle on the side to put the fires out. What am I going to do with my spray bottle? I might have to get rid of my spray bottle. That's my treasured spray bottle, right? Recycled cool bin with an improvised pump spray on it. And it's like, it's all of these things that are sitting there, and we make the assumption that people are ready to jump over that log, and they're not.
But then our job is to figure out how to ferret that out, to feel it out, to
Yeah.
ask it out, to
Yep.
how do we as leaders, what are we to, is it asking questions? Is it, what is the best way for us to ferret those things out
Mhm.
and get a feel
So,
of people's,
Richard, do you want help with that?
yeah, baby,
Are you willing to accept someone's help with that?
absolutely.
Do you, do you think based on my qualifications, I could help you with that?
Yes, sir.
When do you want that help?
I got time right after this call.
Okay. Well, you can't do because I'm talking to Tony. So,
I know, yeah,
and then I got a Rick canal after that. But we can schedule time next week.
yeah.
How's that sound?
No, I'm always open. You know me,
Okay.
absolutely.
How'd that work? I just role played it with Richard. I did it
Yeah, I
right
know,
there.
yeah.
Do you see what I
Um,
just did? It's like right there, right? It's like, okay, there you go. That's the golden words. I told you at the beginning of the call, there's no golden words, but I just gave you the golden words.
Yeah, from my side, there's a little pressure like, ooh, oh, yes, yes, okay, yes. Okay, I don't want to say no. No, I don't want to. Okay, I'm going to say yes. But I
Especially
do
as
want
they
to say
put me
yes,
in
but
this spot in front of everybody. But Richard, you see, it's that conversation.
it makes you
really
move
is.
forward. You're making one decision after the other to put one foot in front of the other. You
Mhm.
can feel the resistance isn't the word, it's discomfort. You can feel little discomfort each step, but it's not so big that it stops you. It's
Yeah,
just a little bit that you can walk through.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, little tiny steps of feelings.
Yeah.
Cool. That was cool.
Mhm. Questions, comments?
As you just did that with Richard, I'm thinking that as subliminally, perhaps in his mind or whatever, you were asking him questions that he was answering, and at the same time, he's thinking or aware of his purpose
Mhm.
and didn't have time to jump in with another purpose or another another what's the word? Excuse or objection.
But
There's no
I
time
would,
to, there's no time to squirrel out of that.
No.
but I would need to be prepared if he was, right? If he says,
Yeah.
are you ready to get help with that? Yes, yeah,
But, yeah.
and then you'll hear some, but okay, well, what? And then you've got to be patient to stop and go, well, what? And then when they tell you, really don't stop there. Is there anything else? Right? Is there anything else going on? Is there anything else going on in your life or your business or anything? I mean, like you got a big vacation planned, or like, I mean, do you have a root canal scheduled this afternoon? What's going on in your brain? And take the time. You'd be surprised. What else is going on? Or, um, one of my longtime clients, her husband died this week, and say she spoke for us, Angela Durant, she's spoken with us a couple times, and her husband Paul died on Monday. And I've been working with Angela for a number of years, and her husband's been ill most of the time I've worked with her, and he finally died, right? Well, that's been weighing on her, right? And now it's going to weigh on her does that make sense? And no matter, we can do all the peripheral stuff around there, but that's big stuff, right? That's big stuff. And we all have that big stuff. So when you're talking with somebody, recognize your own big stuff, right? Okay. And take time to find out their big stuff. Does that make sense, Richard? Right? It's not a black and white, right? It's more like,
Well, I think, yeah, take time to find out their big, yeah.
And some of the small stuff. I mean, and sometimes it's the small stuff. As silly as that is, I got 3 chickens. I got 2 of them laying. I'm kind of concerned about them. It's as silly as that sounds. My chickens, that's, every day I go out there. And it's something that's big in my world. You think of just 3 chickens. Well, I used to have 6. Now I'm down to 3. And what else? It's like, what else? What else? What else? What else? When I work with Jay Abraham, God, he would ask the same question over and over again. It's like, yes, that same question one more time. I'm gonna, and I remember just debriefing with him on it. It's just like, and I thought, really? And he'd say, what else?
I love that phrase. Love it.
What else? And we'd just sit there and we'd have all these, and he had this question, like 250 questions that the client had to fill out before we would engage, right? And it was my job to make sure the client, we never had a client answer all 250 questions. Never. It was like, it was crazy, right? And some of those questions seemed like the exact same question over and over again. And I would have to calm the client, but Jay had so much stature, right, that they would push through it, right? They wanted to work with Jay, right? But then again, he would get the answers to 80% of those questions, and sitting there by the pool with his little yappy dog. And then all these answers, he says, what else? What are we missing? I'm thinking, how could you have missed anything? You asked every question in the book that I could even imagine, right? What else? What else? It's like, okay, I don't know, Jay. What else? You tell me. It's almost what I was thinking in my brain. You tell me what else, because it looks to me like we have everything possible here, right? And you know what? There was always a what else that would come up that would create a paradigm shift. It was like over and over again, right? We were helping one of the companies sell their product in the Carolinas. They had an office in Ohio and one in Charlotte, North Carolina there, right? And he kind of kept saying, okay, there's something we're missing here. There's something we're missing. What else, right? What is it? We have the audience, we have the avatar, all of this stuff, right? And finally he says, where else do they use this at? Okay, where are these things at, right? Where are they sitting, right? And we found that they were sitting in random places all over the country. And he says, is anybody coordinating all of that? I says, I don't know, let me ask. And we found out, no, nobody was coordinating any of that stuff. And he says, well, what if somebody did? What if it was Terry? And I says, I don't know. What if it was Terry? I don't know. So I went back to her. She's like, I don't know. I don't know. What does that look like? You know what I mean? It's like, finally, right? Well, she went from being Ohio and Charlotte to being the North American coordinator of all those little various pockets. That makes sense? So rather than thinking geographically, she expanded and we created the infrastructure. And she more than 10x revenue. More than 10x. That makes sense? What else? It was so quiet today.
Well, I had a buddy architect. He's in Port Angeles. He's about a 9-hour drive away from me. We work together on the internet all the time. But we had our favorite phrase. We design things over the internet. I've designed things on my cell phone. You just, we'd always digitally work. We had a phrase we liked, the third. Our first ideas were always crappy. Second ideas were okay. And we had to push through to where we were bored and didn't think we had an idea. We call it the third. We'd always get a decent idea after we burned a couple along the way.
Yeah.
It's what else? Push through what else? I think I got the answer. Well, wait a minute. What else? Let's go
Yeah.
one more.
Yeah. So when you think you have uncovered somebody's fears, what else is their fear? What else are they afraid of? What else? Right? If I give up maple bars, when I go and have a cup of coffee, what am I going to have with my coffee? I got to figure something else out. I'm not quite sure if I'm ready to have celery and coffee. Right? I drink my coffee black, but I don't know. You see, it's like, what else is there? Right? I don't know what to do. Would feel awkward on the dance floor. Or any number of things. Like what else? And makes sense. Let's help you guys out today. We're unpacking this, like you're just looking at it at a different angle. You got to have my key here is patience. Tom, if there's any quote that you want to quote, is so that what is the number one precursor here to success? It's patience. Morris helped me the other day. We're getting my book together and we recorded for another chapter and the last chapter is the follow-up chapter, right? And Morris, I think probably the big word there is patience, right? So I think a lot of people in business, they go through the process. You have an enrollment call and they don't enroll and you think you've lost. No, have some patience and follow up. Follow up again in a week, a month, a year, 10 years, 20 years.
I mean, like you told me stories of clients that you've been contacting for years, like 6 years, until they were finally ready to work with you, or where they finally needed what you offered. And I mean, most people aren't even in business that long, and that's just one of your many client stories.
Yeah, I've got one on Friday. I mean, I have engaged with him for at least 5 years now. And he's going to come in the door on Friday as a major client. Project I'm starting today it was 2 years in the making.
Also, what I found really fascinating is that most beginners would be ashamed of that or see it as a failure, and you're really without any judgment towards yourself and towards your clients or prospects or people that you meet. It's like, it is what it is. That's how you approach it and you keep going. But the struggling entrepreneur or the solopreneur mostly, like who just starts out, what you describe as success stories, most of them experience emotionally as a failure, and there's so much judgment attached to that. Like, I
Yeah.
had to chase this person for 5 years. What am I doing with my life? It's like, well, you're generating business, right? Like, I find it really fascinating helping you with the book, learning these stories.
What I was shared with Morris too, working with Chet. Chet chased Tony Robbins for 20 years before he convinced Tony to partner with him and create Business Mastery. 20 years. Chet bought a brand new Rolls Royce. Was it worth it? And because of that, was able, because he passed quite early, that 20-year chasing allowed him to establish such a crazy legacy, that even as he's passed, his family is taken care of. Was that worth it? Yeah. Tony Robbins had so many fears he had to allay, including when we did the beta for Business Mastery. The crowd was not Tony's crowd on the first time. It was that we had 500 people in a room there in Las Vegas. That we generated out all off of Chet's list because Tony feared launching something brand new like that with his list. See, you guys see the success, right? And you think, oh, I want that success. Do you? I don't know. I posted on social media one time and it didn't work. I posted for 6 weeks in a row and nothing happened. I talked to 100 people and nobody signed up. Allay their fears. Allay your own fears, right? Make sense? Pretty good subject today, huh?
Good stuff.